So the beautiful thing about this plugin, it has two sound engines, right? And if you under the engine, there's different types, right? So there's a sample type where you can use actual samples and do kind of granular synthesis, which is still something I need to dig into. I don't really know much about granular synthesis yet, and I've been meaning to grasp it, perhaps in a future episode. But my expertise is more wavetable, analog synthesis, as well as FM synthesis. So, but under the analog synthesis, look, you get three oscillators, right? You also get a noise oscillator here as well. So within one engine. So imagine this, if you enable both engines and you're using analog for both, you have 6 oscillators here, which is crazy. I've yet to maximize on all the oscillators. For me, usually just a few is enough, but I can only imagine the results by using all the oscillators. Right, so I'm gonna use, so here, this is my modulation for FM synthesis. So right now, currently, this oscillator can be modulated by FM here, and you can increase the amount here on this window here. Next time I do this, I'm gonna get a zoom plugin so I can zoom in on the sections. I just heard that there's a plugin that can zoom in on the window. That might help for those of you viewing on their phones. But hopefully you can see what I'm doing. But I'm just raising the FM amount here, and it's using oscillator 3 here as its modulator. So that means I could increase the tune of the carrier here. I mean the modulator. So yeah, you can do it that way. And then you can modulate the amount here. Let me try going into, yeah, I'll use the LFO. And, oh. So now it's modulating the amount of the FM. Just bring the pitch down a bit. So he's getting some weird, I guess, clipping on this one. I think, oh, maybe it's from this guy. There we go. Sometimes I find that the FM on the wavetable position, for some reason, sounds a bit smoother. Let me try doing it here. Yeah, for some reason it's smoother on this section. The way the wavetable, so this is the wavetable engine, and you can choose, well, there's the 2D, 3D view. If you guys are familiar with Serum, it's a similar format where you can switch between waveforms, and they have tons of different waveforms. Right. But for FM synthesis, I just like using a sine wave. Oh. And then I'll go back into my LFO and it sounds like popping bubble wrap. Yeah, it did sound like popping bubble wrap, but it wasn't a nice kind of sound, so I wanted to get out of that. So you can do wobbles with FM. So the modulator for FM is here. It's a dedicated oscillator here. So you can do that and then add some distortion. Here's the FX bus here. One thing I've been liking doing is modulating the drive using the same LFO. Sometimes you could add a filter to that too. So modulate the filter. I'm gonna just put a couple notes in so we can just listen to it, get a groove in. Boom. I'm thinking of, instead of using the LFO, I'm just gonna use one of these functions here. Sometimes I'll dance around until I find a sound that I want. It's all about experimentation when you're doing sound design. So this function is kind of like the LFO in Serum. It can function as an envelope. So I got envelope mode here. And then this modulation matrix, at first, it can be confusing because it's very different from other synths. So the way it works is you select, for example, your source of your modulation, which would be function 1. And then when you're in this panel, then every parameter, if you hover over the ring, you can see that there's a color, meaning you can click and drag to increase the modulation amount on that parameter. And okay, so this function is now modulating FM amount. Now I'm going to also set it to the cutoff. That sounded much more like what I want to do. And then let's go into the distortion section and perhaps whoa, 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 whoa. Another cool thing I like to do is I like the effects on Serum. So you can pull Serum's effects unit as an effects. Right. I think we can bring this. Ah, that's what I want. Yeah. So then you can shape the envelope depending on how you want that little bass to sound, right? So this would be the attack. So you can perhaps add some LFO to it as well on the filter, perhaps. Let's try maybe a triplet rhythm. That's kind of cool, switching between the eighth note triplet and quarter note. I wonder if we can program that into the performance. So let's see if I can. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. So I can then go into my just show and modulation, and then I can change it here. Except I think change it to eighth person. Yeah. Okay. And then go in here, and then you can modulate it. That's cool. Let's see if we can increase the distortion. So I want to use the LFO here to modulate this distortion amount, but with the Serum effects, you have to, it doesn't pick up the MIDI notes, so it doesn't trigger the LFO, so you have to insert an external instrument. Now, hopefully I remember how to do this, because I only recently learned how to do this. I think you do this and MIDI to Pigments, I think? Yeah, okay, cool, and then I'll just put a note here. Make it 2 bars. Then I'll make this 2 bars as well. Yeah, so I want it to go up like that on the first bar. Whoa. Let's add some reverb. I'm loving the sound of adding I know adding reverb to bass is a no-no, and there's ways around it. You can split your bass sound into layers between mid, high, low layers, and then only reverb the top layers. Sometimes I admit I am lazy, and I'll just do it this way, and then I'll just high pass it. Hopefully that works and gets rid of the low end, because what you don't want to do is reverb the low end, because then your signal gets muddy, right? Yeah, okay, that's a cool groove.